When the facts bend reality, this is beyond plausible.
Animal sensory organs, taste and smell. LLC how things are perceived and how important scent is from an animal. You might find it strange, but the natural world has no gourmets. After all, animals eat merely to survive, not for enjoyment as we often think. So is it certain that only humans can distinguish one flavor from another? Actually, it's more complex and interesting than that. In the animal world, the distinction between taste and smell tends to be unclear. For example, for land animals, those walking on the ground, taste is simply detecting substances called tastins, which stimulate sensory cells on taste buds or papillae. But their olfactory sense also detects the scent of aromatic substances spreading through the air. In mammals, taste receptor cells are located on the tongue. In other creatures, they can be in some rather unusual places. How do taste and olfactory receptors work underwater? Well, that's a whole different world. Let's begin our journey from the ground up by observing snakes and their sense of taste in a potato. This slippery character is the garter snake, found throughout the Americas, from southern Canada to Argentina in various habitats. One common feature among all garter snakes and other snake species is their uniquely sensitive sense of taste. They use their famous forked tongues to collect particles from the air and identify them on a special membrane called the Jacobson's organ. Simply put, they flick their tongues to taste the surrounding scents. So from now on, when you see a snake flicking its tongue at you, remember it's not trying to threaten you from a distance but is searching for food. Tasting the meal before eating it could also be said. Most importantly, they have an unusual sense of smell, but their Jacobson's organ adds another dimension entirely. The Jacobson's olfactory organ was discovered by Dr. Jacobson, after whom the organ is named. The organ named Jacobson is located in the roof of the mouth in many reptiles and mammals. Mammals include us, but humans seem to be an exception. Unlike snakes and lizards, mammals with a Jacobson's organ have it as a standard part, usually without long forked tongues that they can flick in and out at will to taste the air. Instead, they do something else, called the Fleeman response, such as domestic cats do. And this character, the tapir, does it too. Looking somewhat like a pig with a trunk, the tapir is actually related to horses and rhinos. They can be easily found in broadleaf forests and old-growth forests in Central and South America as well as Southeast Asia. Tapirs have poor eyesight, but they have a very sensitive sense of smell. Adding to that secret sensor is the Jacobson's organ. Smiling with curled lips, similar to what you see domestic cats do, they Tapirs are herbivores, and their long nose along with that flexible lip is very convenient for stripping food from branches. What does a leaf taste like to a tapir? We may never know, but we do know how it finds nutrients for itself. Underwater, whether it's a lake, river, or ocean, taste and smell are entirely different matters. Among aquatic creatures guided by smell, there's this character that looks vicious and slippery. Moray eel. Even with hundreds of moray eel species ranging in size from 25 centimeters to 4 meters, the threatening appearance of the moray eel with its constantly gaping mouth is unmistakable. Moray eels are carnivores, feeding on fish and invertebrates. They're also found in tropical and temperate seas, though they thrive in the largest numbers around warm coral reefs, especially in Hawaii. They're relatively notorious for being aggressive and can even be called irritable, but in reality, when sensing humans approaching, they usually hide or retreat into rock crevices. But remember well that from those corners or rock crevices, moray eels often launch deadly attacks. At that point, to some extent, they're guided by their nose. Moray eels have very poor eyesight and rely on their tubular nostrils to smell and find food. As favorite prey, the octopus produces a substance in its black ink that can neutralize the moray eel. Moray eels can also catch flathead fish or goatfish in English. They're also found in shallow water areas, especially in warm or tropical waters, gliding along coral reefs, mud, or sand. They have two barbels under their chin, likely what gives them the name goatfish, just like a goat's beard. Some goatfish species are nocturnal and can change color like chameleons, but what all of them seem to have in common is their eating spirit. Goatfish spend their entire lives searching for food. They find food using their pair of barbels. Goatfish are known as bottom feeders, scavenging to find food under the sand. On the barbels are taste buds, which will focus on anything edible, such as shrimp, crabs, clams, and snails. Taste and smell will lead the goatfish to meal after meal. But some underwater creatures use this super sense mainly not for finding food. But as a sophisticated homing device. Experts call it innate homing ability. This is an ability we see in land animals, most commonly cats and pigeons. But it's now known that as adults, some marine animals like sea turtles, salmon, and sea turtles can cross significant ocean distances, returning exactly to where they were born to reproduce. Sea turtles have survived the Cretaceous period, but are currently among the 7 species of sea turtles listed as threatened. It takes them a long time to reach reproductive age, at least a decade, so observing them to draw conclusions is a time-consuming and patient task. A sea turtle spends its entire life at sea, except when the mature female comes ashore to lay eggs in the area where she herself was born. The question is, how do they do that? It is believed that sea turtles find their birth beaches by detecting chemical cues unique to their birthplace. This unexpected ability is what we call a true superpower. They are returning to another void region. Most eels are born in freshwater and migrate to the ocean, where they will reside for 4 to 5 years, feeding and growing. When they mature, they return to spawn in freshwater streams, where they give life. When they return to freshwater to spawn, it is hypothesized that salmon use the water source to find their home stream, and indeed, their sense of smell is truly remarkable. But now scientists have begun to question whether salmon use the Earth's magnetic field for navigation. Part of it is a kind of super sense that salmon use. On the other hand, scent is key for animals when they mark their territory. Leaving scent marks on their territory, most animals don't spend much time on this subtle task. A lion urinates on a tree to mark the boundary of its territory and to warn any approaching lion that the tree is already claimed. However, Hippo left a part to let the intruders know who holds the power around here. This is what hippopotamus researchers call defecation, but anyone nearby would call it something else. So far, the animals we have discussed mark their territory in a fairly standard way. Even with hippos, they tend to give warnings. But the endless suspicion of nature has never ceased to cause astonishment. Take the case of the Thomson's gazelle, typically found in the African savanna grasslands. Thomson antelope has some particularly unique and extremely strange territorial markings. When they arrive in pairs, they establish a breeding territory by leaving their scent in an unusual way. They secrete a scented substance from a plant beneath their eyes. This antelope applies this substance to its body to ward off intrusive males while attracting females. Far from the African plains, but in the forests of southern Australia's Greenland, you will find one of the animals that humans often consider cute. Strange science bear. Of course, it cannot be confused with any kind of bear, as it is, of course, a marsupial whose closest relative is the koala. Koalas sleep up to 20 hours a day, and now, they live in a rock building. Of course, this is a type of marsupial whose closest relative is the koala. Australian possums sleep up to 20 hours a day and have one of the lowest brain-to-body ratios among marsupials. If you come across one urinating on a tree in the wild, it means you are seeing it mark its territory, especially if it is a male. But male bears also mark their territory in other ways. You can distinguish a fully mature male cockroach by the prominent drill located in the middle of its chest. Actually, it is a scent gland. And these 9 scent glands on the chest are used by male bears to mark their territory. Rubbing the chest against tree branches, usually at the base of the tree, creates an unusual reaction. This interesting action triggers a special sensation inside the male ferret's body. That feeling is accompanied by the secretion of a fragrant liquid that is particularly attractive to male mosquitoes. When this task is completed, Koa will not only have marked the river territory as his breeding ground but will also be in a state ready for romance. The young bullous spider, also called the tooth bridge spider, uses a sex pheromone to lure 7 male moths. This is also known as aggressive mimicry, where a predator copies some characteristic of the prey, confusing it and luring it into a trap. The bullous spider releases an indistinguishable female moth pheromone to lure male moths to their death. That is a coveted weapon in the arsenal of spiders, the bullous spider, because this species does not catch prey in a conventional web. Instead, they hunt by using a sticky drop at the end of a silk thread that they swing toward male butterflies, which are attracted by the fake scent. Now, in the final part of the video, let's look at some characters with a true super sense of smell. Let's start with the worst bastard of this forest, Zoe.
A wolf's sense of smell is estimated to be 100 times stronger than that of a human.
They use it to locate other members of the pack, the predators, and of course, the prey. The scent will let them know whether other wolves are in the area or not. How many are there, male or female, and how to observe them.
Wolves have special scent glands on their bodies, including on their back and about 7.5 centimeters from the tail.
The scent from these glands is as distinctive as fingerprints are to criminal investigation. Each wolf has its own unique scent. Wolves mark their territory and trails using scent from these specialized glands. It can be considered their personal business card.
These scent trails, boundaries, or scent stations can be up to 100 meters apart.
Humans have benefited from observing this behavior because domestic dogs have similar scenting abilities to wolves. So training techniques have been developed based on wild wolves. This is clearly demonstrated in search and rescue dogs and drug detection police dogs. Ranking second in superior olfactory sense, one of the most sensitive noses belongs to the mighty bear. For some reason, people often think bears have poor eyesight. That's not true, but they do rely more on scent and smell. Their keen sense of smell helps them search for food. For example, bears can detect prey as far as 35 kilometers away. The sense of smell helps bears find mates, track rivals, and helps mother bears monitor their cubs. Bears communicate with each other through scent. By leaving scent on trees, they convey messages to other bears in the area. Although a bear's brain is only about 1/3 the size of a human brain, the area controlling smell is at least 5 times larger. That's not just the brain, the bear. The length of about 23 centimeters is just one reason. It's also optimally designed for smelling. The bear's nose contains hundreds of small muscles that can move flexibly, like our fingers. The internal surface area of their nose is very large by human standards, containing hundreds of receptors. They also have a Jacobson's organ in the roof of their mouth to supplement this sensory system. But the long-standing question remains, can bears smell your fear? The answer is yes and no. Bears can detect you sweating cold, but don't recognize it as fear. So they sense fear rather than smell it. In the video about animal super senses, we touch, feel, see, hear, throw, and smell like animals. Senses are the focus of this video series, and this video is no exception. Taste and smell in nature are no less important than in the world we've created for ourselves. Perhaps even more so. But these amazing perceptual abilities will one day be challenged again. Join us in the next video.
Curious? Subscribe and step through the next anomaly.